So let's talk about hooking. So first of all, what is hooking? So opening basically is just getting the conversation started. That's it. Okay, opening is getting the conversation started and then assuming the burden for that first 20 seconds so it's established you're talking. That's pretty much opening. Hooking is this. And what is the hook? Well, there's two levels of the hook. Hook one is this. Is she wants you to stay. Basically, she wants you to stay more than she wants you to leave. Right? If she had a choice between stay or leave, she's like, he can stay. Right? That's first level of hook. Here's the way I look at hooking. Here's the hook I actually want. I want her to be willing to do work to keep me there. Okay? I don't want her to just be like, oh, he can stay. I want her to feel that if I leave, she's lost something. Right? If I walk away, I want her to feel bad in that moment that I walked away. Right? Or if the conversation goes silent, I want her to feel like, oh shit, I'm losing this, I'm ruining it, I better say something. And for her to jump in and start carrying it. Okay? So that's a little bit more of a, let's hook two, more of a stronger version of the hook. And that's the hook I'm really looking for. But usually this happens first and then this. Okay? So this is weak hook, strong hook. But that's what the hook is. It's the moment when they want you to stay. And so I'm going to explain hooking to you from two levels. The first level is things that may or may not get you the hook, but they're essential in terms of basics of hooking. And then after I've taught you that, I'm going to teach you advanced hooking, like how to be very, very sure of getting the hook on a regular basis and how to get the hook in sets that just aren't hooking. Okay? But we're going to do level one first. So level one way to hook is this. You guys may have heard this phrase before. Self-amuse. What does self-amuse mean? It means essentially talk about the things that are interesting to you, talk about the things that are fun to you. Don't worry too much about getting into her world. Just do things in your world. The idea here is that you're conveying your personality to the maximum. Right? And this makes a lot of sense because remember the fundamental idea of game, one of the fundamental assumptions is you're a high value person, you're cool. So the longer she spends with you, the more she gets to know of you, the better her perception is going to be. So it makes sense given that if you go in, self-amuse, speak from your own frame, say the things that are on your mind, you're going to convey a really genuine personality. Also, the idea that you're self-amusing rather than trying to say the right thing for her is a very high value thing in and of itself. Right? If you're going in and you're like, oh my God, I better say the right thing to make this girl like me, that conveys neediness, desperation. It conveys that you're too into the interaction. Whereas if you're just willing to say anything, even things that are a little offensive, things that might be a little bit risky, that actually conveys a lot of value. Okay, so this is why self-amusing can work. Also understand that in game, let me use a little math symbol here. Right? Vibe is much, much, much greater than content, right? Like vibe, if vibe matters like a level 10, content matters like a level 2, okay? So the thing with self-amusement is you might not say the perfect game thing. You might not be perfectly calibrated all the time. But if you are genuinely having fun and they can see that, you're genuinely being yourself and they can see that, and you appear not to care too much, and you're at least interesting, because if you're amused by it, if it's fun for you, it's likely to be fun in general, right? You're doing a lot of things right. So even if you mess up a little bit and you say some things that are a little offensive, or you say some things that are maybe from the wrong frame a little bit, the fact that you are self-amusing, because vibe matters much, much, much more than content, you just sort of overwhelm the content with your good vibe. All right, so that's another bit of the power of self-amusing. Okay? The other great thing about self-amusement is this. What is almost everybody's biggest fear in game? It's probably running out of things to say, right? One of the big reasons people don't open is like, I don't want to run out of things to say. I don't have anything to say. Or they'll get an interaction that's going well, and they'll leave. You'll be like, why? Like, I ran out of things to say, okay? It's a huge thing that happens. And the reason that people run out of things to say, running out of things to say is bullshit. Absolute bullshit. We've all been on the planet for like 20 plus years. Maybe there's some 18-year-olds in here, whatever. We've all been on the planet for like 18 plus years. Somewhere between like, I don't know, 18 and 50, maybe 40? 50? Okay. So 18 to 50, something like that. we have a lot to say. We have a lot of life experience to draw from. So the idea that you don't have anything to say, that is absolute bullshit. Here's what you're actually saying when you say that. You're saying, I don't have anything to say that's good. I don't have anything to say that's worthwhile. Because you have lots to say, okay? But what you need to understand, again, vibe is greater than content, okay? So if you say something terrible, awful, doesn't take you anywhere, like just the worst game thing ever, but you say it with a smile on your face, having fun, good-naturedly, etc., because the vibe is good, the content will be good, okay? So next thing is this. By self-amusing and just saying that's the goal, it helps you do this. Oh shit, let's see if I can write this. Lower your, okay? This doesn't mean go after less attractive girls. It means lower your standards for what comes out of your mouth, right? Instead of thinking that everything you say has to be amazing, instead of thinking that you have to have some Pulitzer Prize winning dialogue coming out all the time, it's like, look, I'm a cool guy. Therefore, if it came from me, it's cool. Lower your standards. Be willing to just do whatever, okay? Again, at the end of this hooking section, I'm gonna talk about rambling from the right frame. You can say some of the dumbest stuff as long as it's coming from you as a cool person, it will work. Okay, so understand though, one of the greatest things self-amusing does is it unlocks your tongue. It gives you permission to lower your standards for what comes out of your mouth. It gives you permission to say whatever the fuck, okay? And that's huge. And then I already talked about this many, many times, but I'll put it up here as a note, which is it is offering value. And it is conveying your personality. Okay? L-I-T-Y. So conveying your personality. So these are the reasons why self-amusing is effective as a way to hook the set. You can understand, right? You're going in. What do people respond to? They respond to things that are value or a threat. If you're self-amusing, you're acting like a high-value guy. You're maybe even being a little antagonistic, a little bit polarizing, so you're maybe even a little bit threatening. So people are gonna find, they're gonna pay attention to that. They're gonna take notice of that, and they're gonna want to have that interaction. Okay? So that's why self-amusing works. And that's why that is kind of level 1 hooking. And it is very effective. If you go in and you're able to consistently self-amuse, you're gonna hook a high percentage of sets, right? However, you're gonna hook a lot of them kind of by accident. Because this isn't like a real strict methodology. This isn't like something that gives you, when this is the situation, do this, when this is the situation, do that. So what do you do if you're being amusing, but the girl just isn't getting hooked? What then? What then? And so that's when we go to hooking level 2, all right? And by the way, understand this before I go to hooking level 2. Level 1 is a prerequisite for level 2. If you try and do all the stuff in level 2 without being self-amusing, without the right vibe behind it, you will come off as creepy and robotic and it won't work. Okay, so level 2 is an addition to level 1. It's not a replacement for level 1. You still need to find a way to have fun, be self-amusing, not filter yourself, talk about what you want to talk about. That still is critical, okay? Level 2 is just something that goes on top to enhance it. Okay, so this is opening level 2. So this is my own personal opening model. Call it Fred. Stands for this. Focus, relevance, emotion, decision. Focus, relevance, emotion, decision. All right. It should be fairly self-explanatory in a way, but in a way not. Okay, so each of these is a prerequisite for the next. Nobody's gonna find you relevant until you have enough of their focus that they're paying attention to you. Nobody's gonna get emotional about you until they care, until they have a reason to care. And nobody's gonna make a decision in your favor until they're motivated in some way, and our motivators are emotions, okay? So this is kind of the process. And this can happen instantly sometimes. If I walk over and I'm like, hey, what's up? Nice to meet you. Come here.
Nice to meet you.
Boom, okay, good, go ahead and sit down. Okay, in that case, I got all 4 very quickly. Focus, was he paying attention to me? Yes. Relevance, did he care? Was he like more on me than anything else? Yeah, for sure. Emotion, maybe a little bit, not a ton. Decision, yeah, he came with me. Okay, so I got all 4 in a very light sense right away. And that can happen a lot. Sometimes you'll walk over, the girl's just like, oh my God, and she opens really strong, You can even open like physically with grabbing her and you can move her off the open. That's a drill that we do sometimes. Right? So sometimes you can get all this instantly. Sometimes the girl will barely focus when you open her and you're going to have a struggle for that, a struggle for this, a struggle for this, and a struggle for this. Okay? And it can go both ways. But just be aware of what they are. So here are the questions. Focus. Do I have her attention? If you don't have her attention, that's all you do. Get her attention somehow. That's it. Okay? Relevance. Does she care? Okay? Does she care? Does she give a fuck? Okay? Next, emotion. How much does she care? Okay, if she only cares a very, very little bit, she'll stay and listen to you talk, but she's not gonna like go anywhere with you. Or she's not going to give you a lot of compliments. Or if this conversation goes quiet, she's not gonna like fill the silence and work for you. Remember the two hooks, right? One is, does she want you to leave or stay? The other is she willing to work, right? So until you have this, you can't get this, which is the decision in your favor, that she's willing to work. And the decision is, will she act? Or it's action, basically. She takes some kind of action to enhance the interaction. And that can be filling in a silence. That can be asking you a question. That can be complying to you. If you get physical and she just goes along with it, that can be going somewhere with you. But some kind of decision in your favor, okay? And what most guys that are decent at game get this very often. They get focused because they're nice and loud, they know how to open. Relevance, they get sometimes. Because by virtue of self-amusing, you're being high value. And what do they care about? They care about things that are, if I can write in English, value or threat. Okay? So that's what they care about, things that are value or threat. So if you're self-amusing, you're conveying yourself as a high value guy, you're maybe being a bit polarizing, so there's a chance that you'll have some relevance, right? Emotion, over time can happen because you're being polarizing if you're being self-amusing, so that can work. However, what doesn't happen with self-amusement is this last step here of getting a decision. And that's why a lot of guys, actually we'll do a little poll of the room. How many people have had a girl where she seems to really like you, she's even like giggling, touching you, complimenting you, and then a different song comes on that she really likes. She's like, oh my God, that's my song. And she runs away and goes to go listen to her song. Has that happened? Crazy, right? She liked you so much in the stupid song, or she could play it on her iPod later. Like, why, right? It's because she was emotionally there, but she hadn't made a strong decision in your favor. She hadn't taken that intangible emotion and turned it into something in the real world, right? And until that's happened, it's just this nebulous thing, right? And that's absolutely critical. You need to get them to turn it, because here's what happens. Emotions basically are chemicals in the body. That's it. That's what they are. They're similar to a drug or alcohol or whatever. And so as long as those chemicals are in the body, the girl's reacting that way. As soon as those chemicals fade, the state she was in when she was on those chemicals, on that emotion, no longer exists. She is a different person once that's faded, right? And so if you get her like having a great time and having a great experience, and then you get her number, and then you call her up the next day when she's in a different mode, a lot of times she barely remembers who you are. Or she's like, oh, I deal with that later, even if she really loved you at that moment. Okay? However, if you get her to make decisions in your favor, you get her to spend a decent chunk of the night with you, that makes it more solid. If you get her complimenting you and telling you how amazing you are, that makes things a lot more solid. The ultimate decision if she has sex with you. She has sex with you, you call her up the next day, it's very likely she's going to respond. Right? Especially if you were good in bed, but even if you weren't sometimes. But the more that she's committed, the more that she's actually taken an action in your favor in the interaction, the more it's going to be solid. So that's your actual ultimate goal. All this other stuff is a means to an end, and this is the end. Okay? And so a decision is any form of compliance or any form of non-compliance. So if I said to a girl, hey, come with me, and she comes with me, that's a decision. On the other hand, if I said, you know what? You can go, it's fine, I don't want to talk to you anymore, and she doesn't leave, that's also a decision, right? Not leaving when she should is a decision. Or if you tease the girl, or you kind of violate her frame a little bit, you threaten her frame a little bit, and she doesn't resist or doesn't get angry or doesn't push back, that's a decision, right? So that's a decision to change her frame or her nature to continue the interaction or to continue being with you. Anytime a girl does that, that's when you have strong decisions, okay? That's when you have strong commitments. And again, that's what you're really looking for in the hook. And actually, that's what you're looking for throughout all of game. You can look at the entire process of game as just like getting higher levels of relevance, higher levels of emotion, and when that's the case, getting her to make a deeper decision. And then you get a little more relevant, a little more emotional, get her to make a different decision. So you could look at it as she's hooked enough to talk to you, hooked enough to kiss you, hooked enough to go home with you, hooked enough to have sex with you, hooked enough to do anal, hooked enough to meet the parents, whatever, right? So whatever the next level is, it's just this this escalating sequence of deeper and deeper decisions, okay? And this is the process for all in focus, relevance, emotion, decision, okay? But understand, this stuff doesn't happen very well without the self-amusement. So that's why self-amusement is level 1, this is level 2. Okay? But for all those girls where you're having a good time but you just can't seem to get them to hook in, try and make these things happen. Okay? One last tip on this, and this is very, very important. We'll talk about this when we talk about tactics. How do you get relevance? Well, anything that's value or threat will get relevance, but that's pretty vague. A good shortcut is this. If you make the interaction about her or about you and her, that automatically makes it relevant. So if you're just talking about like general world politics, she may not take that much emotional notice of it. But if you said to a girl, you know what's so interesting about you, that like it's very rare and it's either gonna make you like succeed massively in life or completely fall flat on your face. It's very unusual. You know what that is? Or you say something like that to a girl, it's about her, right? It has inherent relevance because it's about her. So a really good shortcut for that, because a lot of guys don't get that relevance happening in the set, is make it about her one way or another. So focus on that, okay? And then the next level of relevance is if you can make it about you and her together. Right, so these frames of like, you're my girlfriend for the next 5 minutes, that's a frame of we, that's another sort of instigator of relevance. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so now that we understand the two hooking sort of methodologies, let's get specific. Let's talk about actual techniques, actual things that you can do to make these things happen. Specific techniques. Okay, so technique 1, which I've kind of mentioned, okay, rambling from the right frame. So this is something I learned from my good friend Ryan years and years ago, who is like very, very technical guy in game, a mentor for me in a lot of things. And he had this thing that he liked to do on an open. He called it the idiot monologue. Basically, the idiot monologue is you go up to a girl and you just start rambling whatever idiotic shit comes out of your mouth. However, the thing that kind of makes it work, two things make it work. One, the rambling is very like unusual, so it catches your attention. It's hard to ignore. But the other thing that makes it work that's very important, excuse me, is he had a very good frame. He had a very strong frame. So even though he's rambling nonsense and bullshit, it's all coming from a high value frame. It's high value nonsense and high value bullshit, right? And actually rambling itself is low value. Going in and just rambling and rambling and rambling and like that, that's actually kind of low value and seems a little bit needy, seems a little bit nervous. But again, because all the stuff, all the content coming through is high value, he gets away with it. So an example of the idiot monologue might be something like this. Hey, what's up? Hey, I just wanted to talk to you. Actually, the fact of the matter is I don't even know if I want to talk to you for sure. I mean, I just met you. I mean, like who are you? You could be a stranger. You could be really cool. I mean, you seem like you have a good style, so I'm intrigued. But anyway, actually, what would my mom think? My God, she'd be like, you're talking to random. But anyway, the fact of the matter is I think we could be good together. Maybe we won't. I don't know you very well. I wish that we had more than 30 seconds, but maybe we will, maybe we won't in life. But I'm a romantic. I believe in fate, and I believe that good things could happen. So actually, I don't even know where I'm going with this, but hi, I'm Todd. Right? That's rambling from the right frame. Okay? Now, the fact that I'm rambling is not exactly the coolest thing in the world, right? But how often is her response to that going to be like, okay, bye, right? Her response might be like, wow, that was a lot, or that was awkward, or something, but you're going to get a response, right? You're going to get a response, you're going to get engagement off of it. And that's the whole point. So there are 2 points. One is, although he rambled, he didn't say anything that really gave his power away, right? He didn't do anything, at least on an emotional level maybe, but on a logical level, he didn't do anything that gave his power away. So that's important. Number 2, he definitely got engagement. And number 3, he has enough confidence that, again, fundamental idea of game, the longer you spend with the girl and the more she sees of your personality, the more she's going to be won over and like you. So if this brought him in at a place of a little bit of lower value, but at the same time it bought him 2 minutes of conversation, he can do enough in those 2 minutes that he's going to overcome whatever low value he created by his little ramble. Okay, so that's the idea of rambling from the proper frame. Now, do I recommend this become your default opener? No, not necessarily. But understand the concept, understand why it works, and know that it's okay. Know that in that moment where you don't know what to say and you're worried you have to say something good, if you were to do something as bad as that ramble, it would work. It's totally fine, right? And know that the alternative of not rambling and not assuming the burden is the unacceptable option, right? You do need to keep talking for that 20 seconds. You do need to keep things going, okay? So that's one legitimate technique, rambling from the right frame. Just keep talking from the right frame. Keep it going no matter what. Now, so that's very good for getting things started. It's very good for assuming the burden. It's very good for getting that minimal base level of engagement, and that's important. However, you also, because again, there's the 2 levels of hook. There's she doesn't want you to leave, and then there's she's willing to do work. So this will get her to like, she's intrigued and doesn't want to leave. But how do you get her to actually do work? How do you get her to actually buy in? Well, here's some techniques for that. Leave silences. If you talk and 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 never leave a silence, even if she would be willing to participate, she can't. You've just made it very difficult for her to do so. So what you actually want to do is leave little pauses and let her fill in the blanks. So for example, if I was giving that really, really long ramble, I could at some point be like, you know, the funny thing is, what would my mom think about this? Anyway, but regardless, right? I could just leave a little pause in that ramble, and if she's bought in or curious, she could fill in that pause. And if she doesn't, it wasn't such a long pause that it makes it weird or awkward, right? So instead of just ba 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 ba, give a little pause every once in a while, especially if you've come to the end of a sentence, made a point. You can just slow down your general speech, right? There's no reason that you have to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk like this. In fact, even I tend to talk actually quite quickly. However, even as my words are fast a lot of times, I do still leave pauses. But hey, you know what's so interesting about you is nothing. I'm kidding, right? Right? But that pause, right? First of all, the pause makes that punchline a lot better. But the pause also gives her a moment to be like, no, what is interesting about me? It gives her a moment to participate, okay? You're not going to get her chasing, you're not going to get her participating unless you leave a gap for her to do so. So that's absolutely critical. So leaving silences is key. The other technique that's really good, and this is for relevance. Remember Fred, focus, relevance, emotion, decision. For getting relevance, good technique is this. Okay, this says cold, not wid, by the way. Mini cold reads. So a mini cold read basically is saying some assertion about the other person. Usually a light, funny, cute one, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. So typical mini cold reads back in the day of structured game were of the form, you're so X, it's just like Y. So you're so cute, you're like my little sister. Right, it was just sort of teasing sort of phrase, but it's about them. It makes them wonder, what do you mean? What do you mean like the little sister? What cute in what way, etc. So because it's about them, it sort of forces relevance in the interaction. It doesn't have to be cute or funny though. You can be like, you seem like an LA girl. That's a mini cold read. You don't seem like you're from around here. Wow, you are either one of the coolest people I've ever met or a total fucking weirdo and I'm not sure which. These are all mini cold reads. They're all statements about her, right? Again, any statement about her, more likely to be relevant, especially if it's cute, funny, challenging, any of that kind of stuff. Okay, so these can be very, very useful. In fact, if you watch my infield footage, a lot of my opens tend to be mini cold reads. And the reason for that is if you mini cold read and they respond to it, you've automatically gotten focus, relevance, and maybe even some emotion, the first 3 steps of the hook, within like the first sentence of the interaction, right? So when it works, it tends to open and hook very, very well. So a lot of times I will open with something along the lines of a mini cold read. If that doesn't work, I'll then cycle to other things, which we'll talk about in a second. Okay. But that's a very, very good technique as well. So learn those. And again, that's the form. You're so X, it's just like Y, or any kind of statement about them can kind of work. All right. Okay, and then finally, let's talk about different, what you do when things don't work. So let's say that you go in. Actually, we'll just make this a different point. Okay, so what if you go in and you try and open a girl and she doesn't exactly open or she doesn't really hook? Now what? Well, I already said you need to be persistent, you need to assume the burden, pull that chain on the lawnmower, make it go one more time. The question is how? How do you do that? What do you do next? And the answer is, I can't tell you exactly, but I can give you some pretty good guidance, okay? And here's the way I look at it. I would say there's a lot of different styles of open. There are a lot of different styles of open. There's a lot of different styles of things you could do to get a hook. For example, styles of open. You could go direct. You could go indirect. You could open with a question. You could open with a mini cold read. You could open with something just illogical and silly. Okay, what else? You could open with a compliment, which is kind of like direct, but it's a little bit different. You could open with a tease. You can open with something physical, like a high five. You could open with, even with an insult or neg, with the asterisk on that it probably should be good-natured. Probably not like completely dickheadish. So this is a list of, 9 different ways that you could open off the top of my head. There's probably more. Here's the thing. So let's say that I go in and I open direct and it doesn't work. Well, should I give up and quit? No. I should try again. But what I shouldn't do is keep going direct, because I've already proven that doesn't work. Okay? So if I keep going direct and it doesn't work, and direct and it don't work, and direct and it doesn't work, I'm an idiot. So let's say that I go in and I go direct and it doesn't work. Okay, fine, that didn't work. Well, I could, at first what I'd have you do is just randomly pick another one and just go with some other random one. Okay, so pick another random one, try it. If that doesn't work, pick another random one, try it. If that doesn't work, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a pretty good start, because at least you're not going to repeat the same dumb mistake each time. But we can actually do a little bit better than that. So if I go direct and it doesn't work, direct is assuming a lot of value, right? If she rejects direct, she's probably going to reject a physical opener too, especially after she didn't comply to direct. So let's not do that one. If direct didn't work, a compliment, probably not the best way to go also, because it's pretty similar, right? Okay. I would say illogical silly is less likely to work after the direct doesn't work, because there's already this like harshness in the interaction. So that one's maybe a questionable one to try, but I wouldn't necessarily. So I'd be looking at doing one of these. I'd be looking at indirect, question, tease, mini cold read, maybe the insult neg, although this, you probably don't have enough value to pull this one off, so that one's pretty questionable too. So out of the 9, when the first one didn't work, just off of experience and kind of understanding, I would kind of know that most of them probably won't work, so I'd do one of these 4 next, right? And if that one doesn't work, then I can cycle to the next one that's likely to work, okay? Now, when I'm approaching a girl, do you think I actually have this checklist in my head and I'm thinking about it and I'm like doing this like weird matrix? No. What I'm actually doing is I'm feeling the vibe, and then I'm going with whatever has worked in the past that seems right for that vibe. So that's what I'm actually doing. I'm not actually like checking off the list and doing this. But that's sort of the process that's going on in my head, is I know I have to do something else. I know certain things won't work from experience. I know other things have a chance. So I do something else that has a chance. And the reason why I'm actually so effective with opening and hooking and so consistent is 2 things. Number 1, when I first see the girl, I can assess how compliant the set is, right? I assess, does it seem like an easy or hard open? Is it a group situation or individual situation? So when I pick my original style of opener, and again, this isn't a logical choice, it's an instinctive choice, but when I pick it, I'm very likely to pick the right one, of the 9, because of experience, because of seeing the girl's vibe, the way she's walking, the situation, I'm likely to pick the right one, right? And then once I've done the right one and I saw did she reject it or accept it, and also in what way did she reject it or accept it, it's very, very likely the second time I'm going to pick the exact right one. Does that make sense? And if I don't get it the first 2, I'm damn sure going to get it the third one, right? Most of the time. So that's the idea. That's why it can be very, very, very effective, is because I know all these different ways to open. I'm capable of doing them all. And then I'm able to assess the situation very, very quickly based on experience. Now, if you're new to opening and relatively new to game or new to any of this theory, are you going to be able to do that perfectly right away? No. Okay, there's a reason I've been in game for 15 years. However, if you understand these opens and you understand the general concept, when you do it wrong, you're going to learn from that much more quickly, and you're going to make that same mistake fewer times in the future, right? So you're going to gain that sense of what the right opener is and what the right progression is much more quickly, understanding this than you would if you didn't understand it. So that's the point of this. Okay, so the point is understand 2 things. Understand, number 1, you want to cycle the style of opener. That's just as a general thing. You don't want to keep doing the same thing that's not working. Number 2, ideally, you want to understand maybe why what you did the first time didn't work and go to the correct next one. And then the next level is, when you look at the girl in the first place, to have some kind of an idea of exactly what the right thing is right away. Okay? So that's sort of the meta game of how to open. And that's how I can be very, very effective and get opens extremely consistently, even when I don't necessarily get the first one to work. All right, so that's kind of bringing it all together. So you have all the techniques, have all the ideas, and then this is the overall sort of strategy and procedure.